Hi everybody, this is a new video that I wanted to make because the first video that I posted about the project and a behind the scene was done in a massive hurry. Basically, we just recorded it with no script after the video was posted. We just wanted to have something available for people to check out afterwards. So this is going to be a slightly more technical video. I'm going to go into some of the elements that I relied on in Blender specifically to make the project happen. So I just wanted to make people aware that this is not going to be as fun of a video. It's just going to be me going over a lot of things that I specifically did in this project to resolve some problems or to make things happen. The first thing, which I mentioned as a limitation of Blender, was the inability that I had to disable the visibility in the scene of objects entirely, like the whole collection at once. There's items like the wheels that I specifically did not want to have show up at past a certain point. I wanted them to all go away, and not just them. It included the rats, it included the lights on them, and it included the strips that we see everywhere. It was like, I don't know, probably 24 objects that I had to manually keyframe to disappear. And the very annoying thing is that when an object is not appearing in the viewport, Blender doesn't consider them selected, even though you actually do select them in the outliner. When you select them, nothing shows up. So you need to go back into a point where they're visible, and then you can mess with their keyframe. But for example, if you take the keyframes that disable them and you move it past, you fucked up. You have to Control Z, go back, and so it's very annoying. The only reason it's very annoying for me is because I disable the viewport visibility in addition to the render visibility, because otherwise it's very difficult for me to know when things disappear in the render compared to just in the viewport. So it's kind of not a gamble, but it's a two-sided double-edged sword is what I'm trying to say, because, well, it's one convenience for another. I just hit my elbow on the desk. I'm okay. It gets easier over time, and specifically now because I've got an add-on. If people are interested, I'll send you the add-on directly. But it's otherwise a massive pain. I just think it's the value of seeing an object disappear in viewport is much higher than the convenience of being able to select it anytime. So that's just one thing. Light instancing is to me the most powerful tool in Blender that I have access to. And for those who do not know what that is, it is the ability, at least I believe in Cycles, I'm not sure if it is in Eevee, but I would assume by now with Eevee next, that you get to, for every single light in your scene, choose in the shading tab down here on the orange block to create a collection for that specific light, which you can share between lights, but that collection allows you to set which objects this light and shadow is affected by the specific light that you chose. So in this case, I have a dedicated rat wheel, which you can see takes effect here. You have the keyframes in the timeline. So I have a light that its only purpose is to light up the rats to make them more desirably visible in the scene at that specific moment. That light does not affect anything else. So specifically, what I did to use it, you create a light, and then you create on the plus to create a collection for the shadow and the lighting specifically. And then you drag and drop the items or the collections, entire collections that you want for that light to affect. So in this case, I wanted only the rats to be lit by this light, so I dropped my entire rat collection in this. An easier way to do it, by the way, is to click on that tiny pen icon, which means that you can then select anything and it won't change the outliner view here. But I didn't want that light to cast shadows on the rat. So I dropped the collection in it, but then I clicked on the tiny checkbox here to disable that. It's a very subtle thing, but I didn't want that light to cast shadow in between the pieces of the rat. because it wouldn't look as good. That's just a personal thing. You can do whatever you want, but that is so insanely powerful because you get to just in the whole scene, you get to fix any error. For example, in the same vein as the rat light, I have a wheel light that just only affects certain items. My main light is obviously lighting up the vast majority of the scene, but some items are emissive, which means that they have their own brightness value inherent with their material, and that's very convenient as well. Sometimes, for example, the iris, which is here, has an emission value that I believe changes during the whole scene, because sometimes it is too bright and it's not necessary when it gets too close to the camera. For example, if it was at 0.5, it would be you wouldn't get to see the texture on it. So a lot of things are the lighting in Blender is extremely powerful because you get to have a lot of specific control over which element is affected by what all the time, and it's really awesome. Another thing here is with lights still, is that people don't know, and I discovered quite late in my own Blender adventure, is that you get to have lights with negative intensity. And what that does is that it creates, as you may imagine, it sucks up the light. And if you have that in conjunction with a positive light, or a light with positive emission value, you get to control how much shadow a light is creating. You get to, if I hide everything else, if I remove the negative light that is affecting shading, shade linking, elderflower, so it is affecting everything else. But the negative light allowed me to, actually I don't know if I've keyframed that, no. To remove some of the brightness from the positive light. But there was no way to do that without keeping the shadows as dark as they were. So a negative light in this case is only a minus 1,000 watts, and the positive light is 5,000. So I just needed a way to take away some of the brightness without affecting the rest of the what is it called? The scene, basically. Back to the other project. Nope. One thing that people may have noticed, it's very quick, but when the iris moves, it stretches and squashes. Lithian decided to add that, and it was a really good idea because it added a lot to that specific moment. And so that is done by just specifically deforming the mesh with shape keys that we then keyframe to have a value from 0 and 1 in specific moments. We didn't even get to thing 1, but you can combine keyframes to deform mesh in any way you want, and I think it's extremely powerful. People tend to forget that they can just mess with the mesh at any point, and there's a few other places I think that I created keyframes to just move something away or just hide something that I didn't want. And so yeah, people need to use keyframes more often. I think in animations they're very powerful. I know people use it to deform things, but to fix bad deformations, but you can also just add effects like smears and everything. So very powerful. The scene itself has motion blur across technically quote unquote everything. However, in Blender, another extremely powerful thing is that you get to disable motion blur per object. And so at the beginning, we have Jack coming into frame here, and Jack has motion blur disabled. So we get to have elements that do not cast motion blur and do have more of an effect of a paper object, I guess, without being too realistic. The frames themselves have motion blur. We wanted those to stand out a bit more. But that's a good way to have especially if you get to stop motion feeling, to have your scene. You don't want motion blur, in a stop motion scene, for example, because it's frame after frame and objects don't move in space like they would in real life. So yeah, it's important to keep that in mind, is that if you want to use motion blur for some things, because in you're in a 3D scene, you get to cheat a bit. Motion blur can be deactivated and activated per object, so that's really convenient. A big thing for me that I realized with this project, and that I wish I had realized a long time ago, and I think has had a very negative effect on a lot of my animations, especially the Don't Starve one, is that I very mistakenly thought that by pressing V or setting the keyframe handle type to auto clamped, for some, I don't know why, but for some reason I thought that auto clamp was the preferred way to do things. I don't know why. I just saw the word auto, so I just assumed it was better. But I realized that what it did is that it made my animations very flat. What it does basically, auto clamped, is it prevents the curve between two keyframes to get past the value of those two keyframes. It can't go above or below. I don't know, I think I can show a very quick example. If I set those keyframes, I set to maybe auto clamped. No, that's a bad example. If I did this and this, if I set those two to auto clamped, I think, yeah. So it sets auto clamping sets a limit to how far the values can go, and I didn't realize that until very late. So now I know the difference, and I would obviously choose automatic if I want just normal curves. I use free and vectors as well, but auto clamped has a very specific purpose, and just want to make sure that someone out there isn't making the same mistake as me and wondering why the animations are like weirdly, I don't know, just bad, and you think you're a bad animator, but turns out you just click the button that doesn't do what you want. You in Blender can set objects to be not selectable. It is very useful, especially in scenes like this where you have a fog volume encompassing a giant, like your entire scene, and it makes it very difficult to then, for example, I'm trying to select like the wheels, and it takes me a couple clicks to actually get to it. But otherwise, like I'm just clicking nonstop and nothing happens. So in Blender, you get to go to this object properties as well, and then what is it, viewport visibility, and then deselect selectable, and then you get to basically not able to, you can't select it in the viewport. At least you obviously can't go to your object and select it, but you cannot click on it, and that is so helpful, because otherwise I would have gone absolutely fucking crazy if I had to go like zoom in every time or select things only in the outliner. So just keep that in mind for things that you don't want to click on or you don't need to click on anymore. Same for the lights, extras, disable them, because otherwise, look at this, like I can't select anything. So, or at least it's like, it makes it very difficult in my scene to know what the fuck's going on. So yeah, get rid of them. You can make the camera follow a specific object, and that is so convenient, especially for dynamic scenes. That is found in the view panel. Press N to open the view panel, select an object, and then view lock objects to that thing. And so now, whenever I'm going to move the camera, my camera is going to stay on that object. And that helps with debugging so much, because sometimes you don't know where objects go, you don't know how they're visible from another angle, and you don't want to just move the camera every single time you move the keyframe. It makes working on specific things, like for example, I had to do that on the rats quite a lot, because we weren't sure how the animation would look like, and so I get to like follow the whole thing, and it does it even when the object is disabled, which is really convenient, because you get to make it appear in frame, and yeah, it helps. Yes, that's one limitation, and maybe I'm kind of mentioning that because I wonder if someone has potentially an idea, but I've come through the internet to find a solution. I've seen a lot of people share a lot of mathematical equations to potentially solve that, but no actual tool. I'm not sure if there's a way to keep an object in size and position in frame the same if the camera is changing its depth of field. I'm really curious if anyone has like an idea, but obviously when you change the depth of field, everything is going to warp around. But it would be so convenient in some, in this scene it would have been really convenient because we didn't want the cogs at the back, the wheels to move as much, to give them a larger sense of like scale in the scene, because obviously the objects are not like we're cheating a lot. Like I need to remove the rat from my camera. The object scales are just we're lying. They're not as small as they appear in the frame. They're not as far away as we make it seem. They are just very very close, just shrunk to appear further away, and we basically do that everywhere. The only thing that matters is what it looks like in camera. So obviously just scale everything, transform everything, but for the giant things in the back, we wanted we wished we would have had them remain a bit the same position and scale as the animation went forward, but no big deal. That's another thing for people: don't fix what doesn't need to be fixed. It's not worth it. I'm still very much fighting through that myself. It's a waste of time, genuinely. Just if it can't be seen in frame, it doesn't matter.
Done is better than good.
Done is better than good. The rat, we realized last second, like genuinely in the last, I think, hour before we posted, that the foot was broken. The foot in the front was broken, and yeah, I don't know. I fixed the one that could be seen, but the ones that couldn't, like you can see it here, like the front foot is just in the wrong place. I just fixed the first one, the one that was most visible, and that was it. I didn't fix the other ones. And obviously, you could tell me, well, if you had all those rats instanced in the first place with their armature and animation, they would have all been fixed at once. And it's like, yeah, but I'm stupid, so I didn't do that. So, but whoever you are out there, you're correct. I should have done that. Second to last thing, when you work with an audio clip in your scene, and I'm going to play audio, so it shouldn't be loud, but FYI, I'm going to reduce the audio actually here just in case. You can open a new tab and set it to the video sequencer, and then drop your audio clip in there and select it. Open the end panel to strip, and you can then display its waveform. And that's super useful because you then get to see where the sound actually, like where the beat is, where the specific noises that you're trying to get an effect on. Like, for example, we tried to get the specific effect on the iris at the beginning on a like specific ta-ta-ta. And having the waveform visible to know where the hit happens was very useful. So it's a really neat visual way to help you create something around audio specifically. Same here for the clock at the end. I knew exactly what I was looking for in the waveform, and so I just had to look for the other moments in the audio clip. And last thing is, I didn't use it for this project, but I think I might use it for the next one, is that you get to, in Blender, where is it, the fog here, you get to drive any value you want. You get to drive any value you want. Why is it not? Okay. Sorry, going back. If you have an object that is set to non-selectable, even if you have it selected in the viewport, it won't show you its keyframe. It's a very fucking annoying thing, but it doesn't consider something selected in the outliner if it's not selected in the viewport as well. I don't know why it's annoying, but just be aware. So that needs to be selected. And then fog, because I think it's the most obvious way I can show this example, you get to drive any value, as in the density, any parameter of anything. It can be the color value of the fog. It can be its density. So for example, I'm going to do select density, and then I'm going to press space, or I think it's by default Blender, it's like F2, F1, F3 to open the search bar. And then you can do sound to samples. You then select your audio clip, and then you'll see that based on where your keyframe was, it will then create that, create a automatic keyframe based on the sound you gave it. And so if I were to play this, you'll see that. Let's go down, don't you wanna go down and bring along? So it's a bit difficult to see, but the fog value right now, the density is being driven by the audio specifically. You get to see it. And so you get to create potentially super cool effect. You have to play with the audio, or just to make it, I don't know, you can also apply modifiers on top of that. For example, you can do step interpolation, so suddenly you have stop motion potentially capabilities on any audio. But I just wanted to mention that because this is like one Blender tutorial on that on YouTube, which is crazy, but it's very, very neat. I think that's it for me. I just wanted to mention all those things because I couldn't get to do that the first time around. It's a very long video, so I apologize. But once again, if you have any question about the project or just in Blender in general that you think I might be able to help with, let me know, and I'll do my best to help. Cheers.